Hello and welcome to New Filmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker Magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center and I'm delighted to join with Sal with his movie, Come Clean. Let's take a look at the clip.
Thanks for earlier. I mean, how did you know what to do?
My sister and I were very close growing up. And then the panic attacks started. My dad didn't always know what to do. In fact, he only made it worse. It's about being present in the moment.
Sal, welcome to the New Filmmakers LA family and so happy to have you part of us now. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Come Clean, I've got so many questions. Thank you for bringing it to light on our festival last night. It was so wonderful to see it with you and all the other filmmakers. For those that haven't seen Come Clean, tell us a brief synopsis.
So Come Clean is it's a dark dramedy about a young man struggling with OCD who white knuckles his way through a grinder date and makes a mess of things figuratively and literally.
So it's a great synopsis. It really intrigues me to find more. But there's so many actual scopes that you've got, and especially where the inspiration come from, which you told us at the festival. Where did this kind of begin for you and turn this idea into a film?
So I think during the pandemic, I was thinking a lot about like human connection because a lot of us were not connecting with other people, and I've struggled with OCD in the past, and I started thinking about firsts. Like as we came out of the pandemic. The first hug that we had with another person, the first movie we went to, the movie theater experience, and like a first date or a first hookup. So I was thinking a lot about how that would be for me, and it turns out it was fine. But I started thinking about what if it wasn't, So it's sort of an exaggerated idea of what the worst case scenario would be. And I wanted to explore a little bit about the barriers that can sometimes come up between us when we're trying to connect, whether it's mental health or physical health or a once in a century pandemic. And how we can bring those walls down.
Yeah, I love how you mentioned it's once in a century pandemic because it really is. It's once every century. Yeah, hopefully. Goodness me, what a strange time for just, connection. And I think we all kind of develop this like weird thing of how do we connect with people and how do we hug people and all these different things. And then, there's the pure fact that like people needed to have connection. And that was such a hard, weird, strange period. But when you've got this kind of on top, when you're suffering with, OCD, it's part of your life. There's another layer to that as well, which I think you articulated so wonderfully well in the film. I really did love your characters in there, and particularly the one that led the story. Tell us a little about how you brought your cast together.
So Kel, the lead character, I found through Actors Access, just through traditional casting means, and we did a Zoom chat and quickly found out that he felt like he had a personal connection to the subject matter, which was important to me. It was also important to me to cast queer actors, and we did that. So it was just first and foremost the whole project in terms of everyone involved. I wanted people who really understood the story and connected with it, and that's how we cast him. And then for Nate, played by James Hayden Rodriguez, I had a producer on the film suggest that I go check out this play called Afterglow. It had played in New York, and it was playing in Hollywood for a few months. And then when I met James, it was just about matching the right actor with Ben, and they had instant chemistry. And when we met and all got together, it was apparent that those were the two actors that would be great for this role. And James just exudes this empathy, which is exactly what we needed for that character.
I love that dynamic to the story, honestly. That was, really kind of refreshing, actually. I mean, I know we know this Sal as, being part of that community, but like, I'm blown away that I'm seeing, queer characters, queer storyline, and it's just always makes me feel so happy because I just, we know how far that we've come, and just to see that on our screens and just the, showing this natural connection between two people, two queer, men in this case, it's mesmerizing to see. It makes me feel so emotional thinking about it because, like, it wasn't so easy like that a few years ago, I mean, I think as well, something else as well, like these kind of scenes, we have seen it between like, heterosexual, couples and such, but we're still embracing the fact we've seen, two men in this way. And especially in the kind of the culture now of dating and relationships, et cetera, et cetera. Was that something you kind of wanted to also just, portray as well? And also hiring queer actors as well for this?
Yeah, I mean, intimacy between two men is still really taboo. And I think
Yes.
that there was a bit of a breakthrough with queer stories, I'd say about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when I started making films, so I felt like I was a part of that with my early shorts.
Yeah.
But in recent years, and with the younger generation, there seems to be some pushback on that, even with
Yeah.
queer stories. Like,
Yeah.
there's almost a consent about if I'm watching a movie and there's a sex scene, why is it necessary? So that
Yeah.
whole conversation that we've been having for decades about sex in films is really, really front and center right now.
Yeah.
And I'm on the side of it's part of life, and if you want authenticity, then I think showing that connection is important. And it's not just about serving the story. I mean, it's about showing all aspects of queer life.
Yeah.
And the grinder hookup is a really essential part for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that connection that we have, especially in the 21st century, it's really hard to connect with people. We have
Yeah.
these, apps that we use, and even then, it's hard to connect with people. And that was something I really wanted to explore.
Yeah, I really love how you develop these two characters. I mean, I certainly have tendencies of this character of just that, I've never been diagnosed, but OCD feels very much part of like my natural aura, so to speak, and I worry about it sometimes. I'm always trying to, just hide it, if anything, really. So I'm really grateful that you kind of brought that to light, because I think a lot of people, there's some people are diagnosed, some people clearly use that word too loosely at the same time. And then some people are internally suffering, trying to, condense it. And it's a real thing when it comes to connection as well. I'm just curious, like working with your actors as well, obviously you really worked hard on bringing the cast together. What is your process in working with actors? Like, how do you go about that? Especially when there's, feelings of intimacy, but also just, in terms of just what they are going through their characters, especially with the character, your lead.
Yeah, I mean, I started off as an actor. I mean, I'm an actor and a writer turned
Yeah.
director. I didn't go to film school. I'm not a DP. I don't know anything about lighting or anything like that. So I really come from a performance standpoint. So a lot of the work I do as a director really happens in post-production. And a lot of the work that you see on screen in the film happened in casting.
Yeah.
And it's about casting the right people who understand your vision and what the story is that you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
And also rehearsing with them. So if you do that work beforehand, I think you're 90% of the way there. And that was just really my process is, unfortunately, because of the pandemic and a lot of things, we didn't have as much time as I would have liked with them together. But we did have a couple afternoons where we worked out the scenes. And then even with the intimate scenes, we worked out the basic blocking of that. And my approach is just to trust the people that I've hired.
Yeah.
And once you get on set, you're just letting them do their work. And obviously you're there to guide them and answer questions and do takes if you need a new take. But for the most part, I'm just letting them do the work. And with the sex scene in particular, we worked it out in the beginning. I said, here's the beats I want you to hit. And then everything else, it'll just happen in the moment.
Yeah.
And I said that not knowing if it would, but it did because I cast the right people. And
Yeah.
most of what you see was the one first take that we did. It was a 5-minute take and they nailed it. And I just remember everyone in the room, it just got really quiet. And I looked around and I said, I think we got it. And part of that was, earlier, I don't know if it was that day or the day before, it was a 2-day shoot. I remember we were setting up another shot and they were sitting on the bed, the two actors, and they were kind of just joking with each other. And one of them had their arm around the other and they were sort of giggling about something silly. And I sort of knew in that moment that they'd connected as friends and as actors. And so I sort of had a good sense that when we got to that scene, that it would work, and it did.
Oh, I love that. I have to say, like, it's nice when there's parts of ourselves that sometimes we can be, we're scared or we're vulnerable to be able to show. It's maybe what we consider a weakness or part of something that we don't want people to see, but it just comes out. And then this lovely flow of actually someone that is understanding. Like, I love that, in this experience, there was someone that just actually gave them room to be who they were. And I thought that was just so special. I think people can be too quick to judge, or if they're on the back end of seeing something like that, they might have an instant reaction, which, but I just love how that articulated, because it ended up bringing those two characters closer together. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sex is about connecting. So I
Yeah.
think that if you're there for that reason and you're open to what's, you can go into an experience and have an expectation of what's going to happen, or you could go
Yeah.
into it and just be open. And I think Nate, the character, was there to connect and was open. And to your earlier point, OCD, like most mental health things, whether it's autism or it's a spectrum.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people might throw the word around, not really knowing, they might be a little germaphobe, or they might just be
Yeah.
like a neat freak or whatever they call themselves. But I think that a lot of people do experience some element of it at some point in their life.
Yeah.
Whether it's triggered by an experience or just something that's inherent in them. But, with Nate, I wanted him to be able to help this other person through
love
what they were
that.
going through. And part of that was because, he didn't have OCD, but he had a sister who'd
Yeah.
experienced it. So
right.
I think that, we all can relate to other people
Yeah.
by just looking at the other people in our lives. And that's another way to connect.
Absolutely. And Sal, the crazy thing is, I was watching your film, My Two Cats, and I was eating cereal. Can you believe it?
I can't believe it.
It was so good to know. I was like, wow. No, Sal, this was again, I can't tire of just, just the visibility and the story and just the genuineness of relationships in today's life, especially, for queer men in this case. So thank you for just bringing that film to light. It was so beautiful to have it part of this whole LGBTQ. How was that experience for you?
It's great. I mean, and the audience reaction is always interesting because it is a pretty dark subject matter. But
Yeah.
I wanted to approach it. My films are always pretty dramatic and dark,
Yeah.
and this time I really just wanted to challenge myself and do something a little bit lighter. And we talked a lot about giving the audience permission to laugh, because I think we all suffer from something, and if we can't joke about it and we can't see the humor in it, then life gets pretty grim. And
true.
and I worked really closely with my composer, especially because if you watch the film without the music, it's pretty dark.
It's so good, though.
But the music cues really give the audience permission to laugh. And so that's been interesting to watch it with an audience and see them allow themselves to laugh at those moments. And that's been my experience from fundraising to casting to finding the crew. Everywhere along the way, people are like, oh, I suffer from this, or oh, I've experienced this, or I know someone. And they're people that I didn't realize that they were experiencing that. So
Yeah.
just having people come out and say, hey, I can relate to this, even if
Yeah.
they don't have OCD, that's always rewarding.
Absolutely. So where are you taking this next? What's going on?
So I am working on developing my first feature film. It's called Out of the Woods, and it's based on a short I did a few years ago called Great Escape. And it's about an older woman who is suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's. And as she starts to lose her memory is also a time that she's decided to try to come out.
Oh,
So it was, based on the short that was nominated for the Iris Prize
Yeah.
a couple years ago. And I'm excited to do it. We've been planning it for a few years, and we're now just trying to get talent attached and trying to get money attached and,
Yeah.
get the film made.
Please give Sal money for his next project,
Please.
okay? No, Sal, thank you so much. That is an amazing feature. I can't wait for you to, share that with us, to the world as well, seriously. And congratulations on Come Clean. Thank you for being part of New Filmmakers LA, and we're looking forward to your next project. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sal, everybody.